would allow, if we can develop such a thing, for the value of your California products to be considered as part of that bid. The notion is to capture for us the value of those jobs that are created in California and support California companies to the best that we can. There is some concern that preferences and such don't work as well under the Interstate Commerce Clause, and our notion was to capture the benefit of in-state contracting. Ask for your aye vote.
Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? No. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Aye. Cogdill? No. Corbett? Correa? Aye. Cox? No. Denham? No. DeSaulnier? Aye. DeCheney? Aye. Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? No. Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero?
Aye.
Aye. Runner? No. Semidian? Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Walters? No. Wiggins? Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? Yee? Yee, aye.
Ayes 20, noes 12. Senator DeCheney moves a call. File item 55, Senator DeCheney. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 930 by Senator DeCheney, enacting to pupil assessments.
Thank you very much. Madam President and members, this bill would establish an accountability system that provides more accurate information regarding the academic performance of our students who are English learners. Schools and teachers instructing large numbers of English learners would no longer be penalized for the academic performance of their students due to the inaccurate data provided in a test that is given in a language they have yet to learn. The bill was amended in Senator Probst to delay the implementation until 2012 to give some more time and to allow for these accommodating tests to be provided. Members, the No Child Left Behind Act allows for you to take tests in the native language up to 3 years. This state had chosen sometime before that was elected to only allow a student that 12 months. We force students, therefore, to take tests in a language they don't understand and therefore give them no measurement of whether they actually have learned the math, the subject matter, have an understanding of language arts, because we're not testing them in a language they understand. It's an issue of equity. It's an issue of, if we're going to have real accountability for our students in our schools and we're going to say, you're not meeting performance standards, then the least we can do is let them have reliable testing instruments. It would change the pool of learners who can take a test in the other language if they are in fact literate in the language, if in fact they have been learning in that language, to up to 36 months instead of 12, and include those who are instructed in their primary language. Beginning in 12-13, the school year, requiring the highest test scores results of whether the primary language assessment or the English standards assessment to be used for purposes of calculating the state's academic performance index and yearly annual progress. It would include the inclusion of primary language assessments and their results for English language learners in successor measures as the state moves to implement the reforms that were enacted earlier this year in Race to the Top. It would measure the state's assessment system and would include that these new tests have the accommodation to acknowledge the actual learning of English language learners. It would require the superintendent to establish an advisory committee for those purposes in the future. Absent this change, members, our students with lack of English will continue to be labeled as failing even when they have mastered the subject matter, and our schools will be labeled as failing even when they are successfully teaching students. I ask for your aye vote.
Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? No. Calderon? I. Cedillo. I. Cogdill. No. Corbett. Correa. I. Cox. No. Denham. No. DeSaulnier. I. Ducheney. I. Dutton. No. Flores. I. Hancock. I. Harmon. No. Hollingsworth. No. Huff. No. Kehoe. I. Leno. I. Liu. I. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Oropesa. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Price. I. Romero.
Aye.
I. Runner. No. Semidian. Steinberg. Strickland. No. Walters. No. Wiggins. Wolk. Wright. I. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee, aye.
Ayes 18, no, ayes 19, noes 13. Senator Ducheney moves a call. File item 82, Senator Ducheney. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 959 by Senator Ducheney, enacting to development and declaring the urge thereof to take effect immediately.
Thank you very much. Madam President, members, this bill seeks to reestablish a streamlined, more efficient permitting process to facilitate timely project approval. The legislation will help businesses move through the state and local permit processes in the hopes of spurring the California's economic recovery. We have worked extensively with the cities and counties to make the guidelines and coordination advisory and provide fee authority for any associated costs in the counties. Furthermore, the bill only includes commercial and industrial development, not targeted. It doesn't target residential development. That was a concern that many seem to have. But our notion on this, members, was to streamline the business permitting processes, both at the state level and in coordination with the counties, so that when a business goes in and applies to start, that they can get the water permits and the air permits and what they need on a timely basis, on a coordinated basis, so we don't have contradictory regulations. And it does not include, finally, any cities or counties under 100,000 population, but does push, and we hope to continue to refine this in coordination with the administration in the Assembly to get the state's own permitting processes together in a way that people can have one application, know what they're doing, and not have contradictory regulations imposed on them. Ask for your aye vote.
Is there any discussion or debate? This is an urgency measure. Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested. No. Alquist. Aye. Ashburn. Onnested. No to aye. Ashburn. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Cedillo. Cogdill. Cedillo, aye. Cogdill, aye. Corbett. Correa. Aye. Cox. Aye. Denham. No. DeSaulnier. Aye. Ducheney. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Flores. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hollingsworth. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. Leno. Aye. Liu. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Oropesa. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Romero.
Aye.
Aye. Runner. Aye. Semidian. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Walters. No. Wiggins. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. Aye. Yee. Yee, no.
Ayes 30, noes 3.
Corbett, aye.
Ayes 31, noes 3 on the urgency. Ayes 31, noes 3 on the measure. The bill is passed. File item 75, Senator Pavley. Senator Pavley, are you prepared to take this item up? Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1006 by Senator Pavley, enacting to natural resources.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Members, this is a relatively modest bill. It requires the existing Strategic Growth Council, which is already in operation, to prepare and send information to cities on planning and design strategies. I want to make it clear it does not mandate anything or require cities to adopt or implement any of these policies or ideas, but it opens up some doors and possibilities for their consideration if they choose to read, understand, and look at the materials. Strictly optional, but the information I think is worthwhile. I ask for your aye vote.
Is there any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? No. Calderon? Cedillo? Aye. Cogdill? No. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Cox? No. Denham? No. DeSaulnier? Aye. Duchesne? Aye. Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? No. Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero?
Aye.
Aye. Runner? No. Smidian? Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Walters? No. Wiggins? Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? No. Yee? Yee, aye.
Ayes 20, noes 13. Senator
Calderon, aye. Correa, no.
Ayes 21, noes 14. Senator Pavley moves a call. File item 31, Senator Leno. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1399 by Senator Leno, an act relating to parole.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, when I arrived in the legislature in 2003, California was spending a greater amount of its percentage-wise of its general fund on the Department of Corrections than any other state in the country. We were then at 5.3%. We're close to 11% of our general fund spending today on the Department of Corrections. We all have been working mightily to find ways to be able to trim the department's budget while at the same time ensuring no risk to public safety. One of the greatest cost drivers, not surprisingly, is the ever-increasing cost of providing health care. So working with the receiver, we have come up with SB 1399. And 1399 creates something that 36 other states in this country already make use of. In particular, the state of Texas makes great use of medical parole, which is why their costs of providing health care to their inmates is so significantly less than ours. So different from compassionate release, this is not release. This is parole with conditions of parole. And after a medical examiner determines that someone would be eligible for medical parole, it is then in the hands of the Board of Parole Hearings to make two consecutive determinations. One, that the inmate is incapacitated, medically, physically incapacitated, and as a result of that incapacitation, a second determination is made that this inmate is of no risk to public safety. And then with whatever terms of parole the parole board would impose upon this inmate would be put into some sort of care facility, whether it be mental or physical, with conditions of parole, such as electronic monitoring. In some cases, they could even monitor phone calls to make sure that there's no funny business going on from someone's bed. But we would save upwards of $200 million a year, both in medical care costs and in security costs. Currently, we have dozens and dozens of comatose inmates in outside facilities, specialty care facilities, with armed guards on each side of the bed 24/7. One of the greatest drivers of guard overtime costs is for these medically incapacitated, often comatose inmates. This is a waste of taxpayer dollars. So I would suggest that we follow these 36 other states. We save the security costs in an outside unlocked facility. On parole, these inmates would also have access to SSI, to Medicare, to Medi-Cal, and so we draw down all these federal dollars to share the costs of these inmates' health care. In fact, the auditor recently determined that as few as 32 inmates are costing the state taxpayers $42 million a year. Just 32 inmates, $42 million a year. something's wrong here, and it's time that we correct this. We have worked with the counties to assure them, and we have language in the bill, that any costs imposed upon them is not intended to be cost shifts. A portion of our savings will cover the costs that the counties may incur. So I don't believe that we can continue this facade, that we can afford this lack of having medical parole. This is a waste of taxpayer dollars. This is of no risk to public safety. I would ask for your aye vote.
Senator Runner.
Well, questions to the author real quick. Have you taken the amendments that are been re-asked, I just don't know the answer to this, that have been asked for by the California Hospital Association in terms of their concerns?
Yes, we've worked with both the counties and the hospitals. This is not intended to be a cost shift to anybody.
And have they've removed their opposition?
I know the counties have. Hospitals are where? Okay, they're still working with us.
Thank
you. And again, for full purpose of disclosure,
right,
this is in no way intended to be a cost shift. We will make it right for them.
Okay, thank you. Again, I don't doubt what the intentions are. A problem that we deal with in this building is usually the unintended consequences of these issues. And clearly, we have not come to an agreement when it comes to the issue of that cost shift, potentially going to both counties or other local governments or hospitals when these individuals are received. But let me go to the core of the issue, and that is it's all in the definition. I appreciate the fact that X amount of states already do this, but I think we did need to define what this is. First of all, if this was a bill certainly dealing with individuals who are comatose, that's an easy bill. I think you'd have everybody here supporting that. But that's not what this bill is. This bill doesn't deal with those that are just comatose and therefore not able to communicate and therefore bedridden, if you will, because of that. That's not what this is. This goes on to some other issues in terms of definitions that cause me to worry. Being debilitated. What does that mean? What's the definition of that? Now, the other issue is this isn't just identified by a medical professional who says that this is the case that this individual has. This can be petitioned by family members of an inmate. So now you've got not only the medical people who might not feel like this is a person who has medical concerns, therefore should deserve this kind of parole. These are families who are saying, I think my uncle, my father, my brother, my whoever is debilitated enough that he should be on a medical release and a medical parole. That's where this goes. The other issue I think we need to point out is this is not being heard by the whole parole board. This is a panel of one parole board member and somebody else who decides this. Now, I think last year we all realized that when we were in this rush to save money, we made a mistake last year. And that was on those issues of early release, and all of a sudden we found that our counties were releasing individuals, and we had to rush back here and we had to fix that because we didn't mean for those felons to get out. And I'm concerned that this is exactly the same thing. Now, it may be a good idea, and it may be the best idea in a very narrowed fashion, but that's not what this bill deals with. This bill deals with a definition of what it means to be debilitated. How do you define that? Who decides that? And I believe that at this point, I'd rather be more concerned about the victims of these crimes that these individuals committed than somehow saving a buck or two and putting them back into the communities. Again, if it was narrow, if it was these folks that are just on life support, if it was that's what this bill did, I'd probably support it. But that's not what this bill does. I'd ask for a no vote.
Senator Denham.
Madam Chair, members, no one can argue with the skyrocketing costs of the health care system within our prisons. It's costing us way too much every year, but there are some flaws in this bill. Here's some of the concerns that I have. First of all, if a prisoner released for medical reasons under this bill somehow gets better, the bill only says that the state may reincarcerate the prisoner again. It doesn't mandate a healthy prisoner's return to prison as it should. Second issue is, should taxpayers really trust CDCR and its medical professionals who have a record of releasing people who should have never been released? Most recently, John Albert Gardner. He's a convicted sex offender deemed okay for release by CDCR, and then killed Amber Dubois and Chelsea King. Also, under current law, when the Board of Parole votes to release a prisoner, the governor is given an opportunity to review the decision and perhaps veto the release. This measure cuts the duly elected governor out of the process and leaves it up to medical professionals at CDCR and unelected appointees on the Board of Parole. That leaves no one for the voters to take their anger out on when a gardener or a future gardener gets out.
Senator Harman.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in opposition to the bill, and I'd just like to say that I speak perhaps on behalf of victims of crime throughout the state of California and the families of victims of crime. Think about some terrible, horrible crime has been committed and an individual is sentenced to a lengthy term in prison for having committed that crime, and then becomes, I think the word is incapacitated, would qualify them for release. And the period of incapacitation could last for many, many, many months, if not years. This individual can be assisted and surrounded by family members and friends and actually lead a pretty good life in the last few years, months, weeks of his or her life. That's not fair to the victims of a terrible crime when someone is sentenced to 25 years or whatever the sentence might be. I think they should finish their sentence, whether they are terminal or incapacitated or whatever. Yes, it's costly, but I think it's what society wants to do. I think it's what society in California expects. I don't think we should be letting people out of prison early for any reason.
Senator Wright.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I rise in support. Members, if you think about this bill and the way we now run our system, we're confusing revenge and public safety. Revenge is expensive. Public safety you might be able to afford. So we take a guy who's in a coma and we say, you're going to stay in prison because of what you did. Frankly, he doesn't know where he is, but we're paying an inordinate amount of cash because what we're seeking is revenge. As I listened to Senator Harman just describe, I want him to do all the time. The reason that we generally put people in jail or prison or whatever punishment that we give, that's why it's called the Department of Rehabilitations and Corrections. Because what we were trying to do, senators, is we were seeking rehabilitation and correction. Revenge is not a part of the description of that department. If it was, we should just beat them, or we should put them out with no clothes and no water and no food. But the Eighth Amendment says that you don't do cruel and unusual punishment. So we have people to whom we're really being tough. And let me remind you that those people who are in comas are not in prison now. You have to send them to a hospital, and you have to send guards there to watch them. So you've got two guards sitting at the bedside of a person who's in a coma. And two people go in at 8 o'clock, and then two people go in at 5 o'clock, and then two people go in at midnight, and then you continue to repeat this process. We had a recent celebrated criminal. She killed Sharon Tate. Awful crime. She killed the woman, she cut her stomach open, took out the baby, and then she slit the baby's throat. Heinous crime. She spent the last 4 years of her life in a coma. And in her last parole hearing, she was in a coma when they brought her in. It cost us $700,000 a year to take care of one inmate. Now, we could conclude, you know what? She did all of her time. As a matter of fact, there's a joke some people say, that they went to court and the judge gave somebody 500 years. And the guy looked at the judge and said, Your Honor, I'll never be able to do all that time. The judge said, don't worry about it, just do the best you can. We're going to have to decide what it is we want the Corrections Department to do. If revenge is the goal, then we should amend the Constitution take out all of the privileges of cruel and unusual punishment, just send them to some place where they're in a little hellhole that we don't have to worry about them. But if we're going to abide by the state and federal constitution, then I think we move back to public safety, which, by the way, should be our principal concern. That's why we initiated this. I know that there was some discussion about the fellow who just killed the people in the San Diego area. Awful crime, except he wouldn't have been eligible for this because the last time I checked, he wasn't medically incapacitated. So he wouldn't have been subject to this rule. There was discussion about the guy in Sacramento. And the guy in Sacramento, 2 weeks after he got out, assaulted the woman at the clinic. Time out. His time was only shortened by 7 days. He was going to get out anyway. Aside from the fact that he was in prison, or excuse me, county jail, because he and his family had a fight and they were trying to deal with his mental issues. In Los Angeles County, we have the largest mental institution in the country. It's called the Los Angeles County Jail. And we're treating people who have mental issues as criminals because we don't want to deal with the mental problem that they have. This bill makes good sense from a cost-benefit standpoint. It makes good sense from a public safety standpoint. It makes good sense from the standpoint of the Constitution because, in fact, if the person is medically incapacitated, why are we having people watch him lay in a hospital bed? I would ask for an aye vote.
Senator Duchesne.
I do rise in support of this measure, and I think we have to read the bill. It's clear that, if I understand it correctly, and Senator Leno can answer this on his close, but I read it that there are medical officers involved in the decision, that it is a discretionary decision of the parole hearing board that makes decisions on parole now. I carried a similar bill to this, and Senator Renner, I don't remember if you voted for it. It was about 4 or 5 years ago. And you know, we have got to get a handle on this. It is unfair to the taxpayers, it's unfair to the system, it's unfair to everyone for us to be spending these millions and millions of dollars when there is availability in nursing homes or the kinds of settings where these folks can be treated and federal dollars can be applied. And it's clear that public safety, as Senator Wright says, is the issue. The discretion of the medical parole board and the parole board is to determine if this person is safe. And I believe Senator Leno specifically excluded those who have death sentences, those who are life without parole, and some others. So, you know, there is opportunity here, members. It is not everybody. It will have medical criteria. It does require the parole board's intervention. There are provisions that would allow the parole board to take them back if it does appear that they are still a threat to society. It's one more tool and an opportunity for us to get a handle. I believe also, Senator Leonard can answer this, is sponsored by the healthcare receiver, or is at least included in his package of bills that he thinks are necessary and helpful to gaining cost containment and control over our prison healthcare system. Ask for your aye vote.
Senator Leno, you may close.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to close briefly, but I do need to take just a moment to correct some of the misinformation that some of the speakers shared with the House. First and foremost, yes, a family member could approach the chief medical examiner to say this individual should be released on medical parole, but it is inaccurate, let me repeat that, inaccurate to say that a family member can take this to the parole board. Absolutely false. It is by determination of the chief medical examiner that the parole board can even consider to determine whether someone is eligible for medical parole. Just want to clarify that. With Senator Denham's concerns about the parole board, I can't do much about that because the voters implemented Marsy's Law. I believe Senator Denham supported Marsy's Law. Maybe he's changed his mind. But Marsy's Law says that all matters and determination of parole are in the hands of the parole board. So this bill could not attempt to change that. Only the voters can change that. That is why it says it has the language that it has in the bill currently. And then I just do want to reiterate that this is sponsored by the receiver, and it was the legislature and the governor who directed the receiver to cut $800 million in medical care costs. This represents just a quarter of that savings. With the other bills that he is sponsoring, that represents just a total of 50% of the $800 million. We've got a long ways to go. So I understand that there are reasons to want to raise the mic and make the case that I'm tougher on crime than you. I think it's time that we get smart on crime. I ask for your aye vote.
Senator Leno, Senator Denham has already spoken. He has his mic up again. Do you yield for a question? Senator Denham.
Madam Chair, I don't know if he's got the option to do that or not, since he did care to invoke my position on a number of issues in his closing statement. I'm well aware of Marsy's Law, well aware of my position on Marsy's Law. But the simple fact of this bill, and where we may have disagreements between Republicans and Democrats, is the specific language in the bill. On page 10, members, if you like to read the bill, some of us have, it says on page 10, if the board determines that the person's medical condition has substantially improved and that the person poses a threat to public safety, the board may revoke the parole and return the person to the custody of the department.
Senator Denham, what is your question?
Here. If you address that one issue, I think you'd have more support on this side of the aisle.
Happy to address it.
Senator Leno?
Happy to address it. Let me reiterate this and make it as clear as possible. Marsy's Law, enacted by the people, the voters of California, states clearly that all matters and determination of parole are in the hands of the Board of Parole Hearing. So if this bill said the board must revoke or shall revoke, that would have this legislature attempting to take away a power and right of the parole board that the voters gave it. We're not able to do that. So there's no choice in the matter. It's already in the hands of the Board of Parole Hearings. The voters determine that. That's why the bill says what it says.
Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? No. Calderon? Cedillo? Aye. Cogdill? No. Corbett? Aye. Correa? No. Cox? No. Denham? No. DeSaulnier? Aye. DeCheney? Aye. Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? No. Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero?
Aye.
Aye. Runner? No. Semidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Walters? Wiggins? Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? No. Yee? Yee, aye.
Ayes 21, noes 13. The bill is passed. Under motions and resolutions, Senator Correa.
For purposes of introduction, Senators, if you can please help me welcome back to the chambers Mr. John Moorlach, member of the Orange County Board of Supervisors. Welcome, Mr. Moorlach.
Welcome to the California State Senate. Senator Pavley, for what purpose do you rise?
Yes, for the purpose of lifting the call on file item 75.
File item 75, call the absent. We'll lift this one call, then we'll go to special consent calendar, then we will return to lift all remaining calls. This item, call the absent members.
Oropesa? Semidian? Aye. Wiggins?
Ayes 22, noes 14. The bill is passed. Members, we have a special consent calendar, items 118 to 133. I'm going to ask the Secretary to please read the consent calendar. We will then take a vote on the first item, which is file item 118, and after that, if there is no objection, we will make that vote applicable to the remainder of the items on the consent calendar. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1355, 993, 1032, 1062, 1065, 1066, 1067, 1091, 1181, 1233, 1236, 1245, 1293, 1296, 1031, and 1085.
Let's take file item 118. Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? Aye. Alquist? I, Ashburn. I, Calderon. I, Cedillo. I, Cogdill. I, Corbett. Correa. Cox. I, Denham. I, DeSaulnier. I, Ducheney. I, Dutton. I, Flores. I, Hancock. I, Harmon. Hollingsworth. I, Huff. I, Kehoe. I, Leno. I, Liu. I, Lowenthal. I, Negrete McLeod. I, Oropesa. Padilla. I, Pavley.
Aye.
I, Price. I, Romero.
Aye.
I, Runner. I, Smidian. I, Steinberg. I, Strickland. I, Walters. I, Wiggins. Wolk. I, Wright. I, Wyland. I, Yee. Yee, aye.
Call the absent members.
Corbett. I, Correa. I, Harmon. Oropesa. Wiggins.
Ayes 35, no 0. Senator Onestad has moved to call. Members, members, at the request of the author, AB 605 by Assemblyman Portantino will be pulled off the inactive file. That's AB 605. Senator Lowenthal, for what? Okay. We will go ahead and lift calls at this point.
He decided not to.
Desk, may I please have a listing of the items on call? Members, we're going to now lift all calls. Let's begin with file item 21. Senator Wolk, Secretary, please call the absent members.
Oropesa. Wiggins.
Ayes 20, no 16. The measure fails. Without objection, reconsideration granted. Ayes 35, no 0. File item 88, Senator Liu, call the absent members.
Cedillo. Corbett. DeSaulnier. Leno. Lowenthal. Negrete McLeod. Oropesa. Padilla. Pavley. Price. Smidian. Wiggins. Flores. I to no. Price, aye.
Ayes 19, noes 8. The measure fails. Without objection, reconsideration granted. Ayes 35, no 0. File item 26, Senator DeSaulnier, call the absent members.
Ashburn. Calderon. Calderon, aye. Cedillo. Aye. Cogdill. Correa. No. Ducheney. Dutton. Hancock. Aye. Hollingsworth. No. Oropesa. Price. Runner. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Wiggins. Cogdill, aye. Ducheney, aye. Ashburn, no. Wyland, no to aye.
Ayes 26, noes 8. The bill is passed. File item 76, call the absent members.
Calderon. Cogdill. No. Correa? Ducheney? Hollingsworth? No. Oropesa? Price? Runner? No. Strickland? Wiggins? Wright? Yee? Yee, aye. Calderon, aye. Price, aye.
Call the absent members.
Correa? Ducheney? Oropesa? Strickland? Wiggins? Wright?
Senator DeSaulnier, do you wish to?
Ducheney, aye.
Ayes 21, noes 12. The bill passes. File item 46. Senator Corbett, call the absent members.
Calderon? Cogdill? Correa? Ducheney? Aye. Oropesa? Smidian? Aye. Wiggins? Cogdill, no.
Ayes 21, noes 13. The bill passes. File item 52. Call the absent members.
Corbett? Aye. Kehoe? Oropesa? Smidian? Aye. Wiggins? Wyland? Kehoe, aye.
Ayes 23, noes 12. The bill is passed. File item 55. Call the absent members.
Corbett? Aye. Oropesa? Smidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Wiggins? Wolk? Wolk, aye.
Ayes 23, noes 13. The bill is passed. File item 118, Senator Wright, call the absent members. This is the consent calendar, the first item on the consent calendar.
Harmon? Oropesa? Wiggins?
Ayes 35, noes 0. File item 118 is passed. Members, without objection, we will apply the previous roll call of 35-0 on file item 118 to the remainder of the items on the special consent calendar. Is there any objection? Seeing none, ayes 35, noes 0. The remainder of the items, file items 119 through 133 on the special consent calendar, is deemed passed. Senator Flores, did you wish to make a motion?
I do, Madam Chair. I would like to move to suspend Rule 44 to allow Senator Ducheney to add on after the votes are taken today in order to complete her work on the conference committee.
Is there any objection to allowing Senator Ducheney, who's been working on the Budget Conference Committee, to be able to add on to the votes taken today? Without objection, ayes 35, noes 0, that the rules are suspended to enable such. Senator Calderon, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Purpose of announcement. We are meeting in room 3191, Banking and Finance Committee, to hear one bill immediately upon adjournment of this day's session.
Senator Hancock, for what purpose do you rise?
To adjourn in memory, Madam Pro Tem. I rise today, members, as we adjourn this long session today, in memory of a beloved constituent in my district, Harry Dov Weininger, who passed away on Sunday. He was born in Romania, came to this country after, during the Second World War, after many adventures, many near escapes. He became a true citizen of the world as part of my community of Berkeley. He did everything from chair the Chamber of Commerce to being on the boards of the City Planning Commission the Planned Parenthood Shasta Diablo chapter, the Berkeley Symphony, the Civic Arts Fund, the Jewish Community Center. The list goes on and on and on. He was also known throughout the community as a peacemaker. In a community that's often very contentious, Harry Weininger could be friends with people on all parts of the political spectrum, bring them together, from everything from dinner parties to tough negotiation sessions, to find a way to get to yes. He was a true public citizen and a very good friend. He will be deeply missed by his community, by his friends, and by his family. And I ask you to join me in adjourning in his memory today.
Thank you, Senator Hancock. Members, without objection, pursuant to Joint Rule 33.1, Joint Rules 28, 28.1, 29, and 29.5C, there will be suspended for the Conference Committee on Assembly Bill 190. The requests have been approved by the Rules Committee. Without objection. Senator Steinberg, seeing no other business, the desk is clear.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just to give the members an update as to where we are, deadline week, we have, as I understand it, and I may be off one or two, 38 measures remaining. 6 of them are urgency measures, which don't have to be taken up tomorrow. 32 left. There may be some bills that members choose not to take up. We don't know that. So for purposes of planning, let's say we have 30 measures left to take up tomorrow. I'd like to begin session tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I'd go as early as, no, we'll stick it at 9. We'll do 9 o'clock with the hope and expectation that we get done by noon tomorrow, as the conference committee, I know, is convening tomorrow afternoon. So that will be the plan. I'd ask people to be here on time so that we can begin moving through the file and complete our work. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Steinberg. Members, the Senate will be in recess until 3:30. Excuse me. Until 3:30, at which time the adjournment motion will be made. As Senator Steinberg mentioned, we will reconvene tomorrow promptly at 9 a.m. The Senate will stand in recess.